Welcome back to the 13th Destiny podcast with Magnum. I am your host, James Magnum Cook, and it is great to finally be back. We had originally planned to start season 3 a little earlier this year, but we had some delays. I was dealing with some other stuff and also some travel I did as well. Which part of tonight I'll also talk about some of the travels I did. And we're going to have a very interesting story that was given to me by a very good friend of mine out in Arizona. Something I didn't even know about this Dragoon, Arizona. But she has a personal story that she has shared with me and has given me permission to use that story tonight. And as you know, I always love a good story, whether they're ones that I know personally or ones that are relayed to me by other people. So, anyway, also, before we get going on the show tonight, I'm going to talk about Farrell Photography down in Nashville, Tennessee. As many of you know, he's really one of my best friends, but kind of more like a brother to me. We did, as you know, he was on the pilot show for his documentary wedding photography. And went down to him not too long ago and used the podcast equipment to record some stuff for his documentary wedding photography course that he is doing online for photographers. There'll be a link involved tonight. Whenever I get the show up, should be either tonight or tomorrow. Tonight's Wednesday. Thursday will be the deadline, and I'm trying to beat that as possible. I kind of gotten to this point where I'm just kind of making deadlines on myself so I can make things get done. I think that's the way the old reporters used to actually do things back in the old days. So anyway, we got that, and I'll be putting a link on about that. It's pretty cool if you're a photographer and if you've ever listened about the documentary wedding photography. It's a totally different style. It was very popular over in Europe, and it's started to get some popularity here in the United States, and Jay has been doing it for quite some time now. And out of the Nashville, Tennessee area. Excuse me. So anyway, we got that out of the way, and so I will put a link there by Jay, because Jay was on the pilot show, as many of you who have followed the show know. I also want to talk about a couple other things. On my travels, I had not gotten a chance to talk about this. I wanted to talk about this sooner, but the Front Porch over in Marion, Kentucky, please check that out. I did write on my TripAdvisor a nice thing about them already. Very wonderful place. Just had a great time there. Great atmosphere. Very family oriented. One of the co-owners posed with me. Had a great server. To only be 14 in her first job, she did a great job. It's on my TripAdvisor as well. So, I actually, this is one of the places I actually went and chose to go to check it out, because as many of you know, I do write on the TripAdvisor stuff for travel, things like that, outside of the other stuff I do for the podcast, even though it's made itself into the podcast, and originally we were supposed to be kind of a different aspect, and which we were trying to get back to that as well. But, I kind of enjoy just interviewing anybody or talking any stories. But tonight we're going to have a ghost story on tonight, which goes along with the paranormal stuff. So that'll be cool. Anyway, as we move on, I see. So we got the Front Porch stuff out of the way. We've got Jay's stuff out of the way. I also want to tell you about another person that I'm going to mention tonight. She's a friend of mine on Facebook, and she is also a public figure as well. I don't know if you've ever followed this. Her name is Rachel Roberts. She is absolutely adorable. I mean, she really is. And she's fun. If you've never followed Rachel Roberts recipes or stuff like that, please do. Rachel is really, really, really incredible. So follow her stuff, and she's got a podcast, and she has a bunch of other stuff, but you can also follow her on Facebook. She does a lot of cool Facebook Lives, and just she is so funny. I have a kick out of her. But anyway, she is a friend, but I also follow her stuff. And I'm actually going to, I didn't tell her this, I will tell her later. I'm actually going to link up some of her stuff too, so you can check her out. But because she is super cool, and we did become friends, and I have a lot of people that are either in the entertainment industry in general, or some other stuff related to the show, and not related to the show as well, that are friends and public figures both. So I will definitely let you check that out. We'll put the links up for Rachel Roberts. So she's pretty cool. And now I got to admit, she's extremely funny. She is an absolute right. She has a thing called Coffee Talk. If you've got to check out the Coffee Talk on the live. So that is very, very fun with her. So we'll talk about that. Let's see what else. Oh, and by the way, I've never met Rachel in person. I hope to meet Rachel in person one day because she is so cool. Just on the, but we did become friends on Facebook, and it's pretty cool. I have some others like that, but I just have a lot of fun watching her stuff. So hope you will too. So the next thing to get out of the way. So now, as you know, I pick restaurants to go to, and actually do reviews on. So this was a pleasant surprise. I did not intend to do any reviews on Captain D's in White House, Tennessee. I did not go there for that. My dad and I used to go there quite a bit when I was taking my dad to the VA hospital, and we were coming back, and we would stop there. So, I mean, I had stopped there, but a lot of things have changed since the COVID days. There's a lot of staff changes. So it's a totally, I believe the manager there right now is named Amber, if I remember correctly, and I apologize if I've got that wrong, because like I said, I did not go in with the intention of doing a review on them. And what happened, this is what gets funny. Sometimes you just have things happen, and you go, wow, I wasn't even coming in here for that today. So I thought that was funny that this happens, and I apologize if that we have a drag here on the I don't know what just happened. I'm trying to get something at the same time that I'm talking to you guys, and I just do not know what it's doing. Okay. So anyway, unlike the Front Porch that I picked out to go to, I mean, I just was doing my taxes and decided to stop in on this place, and so I did, and had a pleasant surprise because I was not prepared for what was about to happen. So anyway, I went in, and it was an interesting situation because, like I said, I wasn't going in to do any kind of review for TripAdvisor or anything like I've done in the past, and so I went in here, and I just ordered, and it was just because of the service I would get that I'm going to say anything about this at all. I literally, like I said, I wasn't going in to review this, and I guess I was pleasantly surprised in more ways than one, that this would happen like this when I wasn't trying to review something. And while I'm doing this, I'm also trying to get the owner of the Front Porch. We posed together. Her name, she's actually calling her and her fiance. She is Katie Wheeler. So her name is Katie Wheeler. And the server was Savannah. That's the 14-year-old who was just absolutely wonderful person, and really enjoyed that. So I go in there, and like I said, I just paid my taxes. That's what this was all about. I went in there and I got all that done, and so I just decided to eat there. I was just going to do a quick eat there and go on. I wasn't going to do a review or anything of this place, and this is why I enjoy when I have something happening out of left field, and it's something related to something that I might do, but I'm not expecting it. So it's kind of fun. I mean, when I do pick a place, and trust me, I love going to the Front Porch. I picked it, but and when I don't pick something, just eat, and something happens, at very, very good customer service. Of course, I'm going to talk about it. So anyway, I was just carrying on a conversation with the front, and we were going on because as you know, I still do DoorDash, I still do other stuff. I like the work. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy the podcast. I enjoy doing those things, and I do enjoy having somewhat of a celebrity status, but I don't. It's not like it has to be something that I do every single day. I enjoy it, don't get me wrong. And the locals know that I'm going to do both things. They've known me for years. They know I'm going to work. They know I love to work. So I just enjoy this stuff. So here's the thing. So I'm just carrying on a conversation. I had my stuff on. I asked earlier in the day, and I was like, oh, no, I'm not here for that. I'm actually here for myself. I'm just going to eat, and because I'll sit out here paying my taxes, and I'm going to go home. And so So we're carrying on, and I got the fish, and I wanted broccoli and macaroni and cheese. These are the two sides that I wanted. Yeah, I know. Some people hate broccoli, but I'm okay with it. I kind of like it. I'll have to tell a story about my testosterone and something that happened to me when I was 27 one of these days. Most of the locals already know this, but anyway, it's kind of funny. But anyway, well, I don't know if it's funny because I spent 5 weeks not being able to walk. But it's funny these days when you think about what they gave you right after the surgery. So anyway, so I'm carrying on. So anyway, so this other girl brings me the plate out at the table. This is how they do it, Captain D's, and she said broccoli and fries. I said, no, it's actually broccoli. I said, but it's not a big deal. I said, Zach, you literally just said it's not a big deal. I wasn't going to be hurt either way. But she was like, no, I've got to go. I'm going to make sure this is right. I'm going to take it. And she said, keep the fries, and I'll go get the broccoli. I'll go get the macaroni and cheese, too. And I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. And she's like, oh, no, I do. I mean, she went out of her way to make sure it was straightened out. I was like, wow. I was like not expecting this kind of over-the-top customer service from this young girl. So I'm sitting there eating and all that and everything. So I finish up and I think, you know what? I'm like, I'm just going to ask to see a manager, because I'm going to, so I got a kick out of this. Because I used to be a manager in a restaurant. So, I get it. So I asked the girl who had come out there and done that too, served me and everything. I asked her if I said, hey, can I see your manager? And she said, and I said, it's nothing negative at all. I want to just talk to her about something. And she said, oh, okay. So she goes back, and I can hear, of course, from the front counter and she tells her that wanted to see the manager, and I heard her say, I heard the manager say, and I laughed because I don't think she meant for me to hear it, but it was funny. And she's like, well, what's wrong now? I said, well, he says nothing. And she's like, well, and so she comes out there, and I said, no, there's nothing wrong at all. And I told her about what I normally do and the reviews and stuff like that. And I said, look, I'm going to write you a review anyway. I wasn't coming in here for that, but I'm going to do that. And I'm going to talk about you on the podcast, along with the other place I had recently reviewed. But anyway, they did a great service there. So I'm going to give them a 5-star over there at White House, Tennessee for the Captain D's. Very excellent service there. And again, wasn't going in for that. Now, okay, I think we've got most of the stuff out of the way for the things that I wanted to talk about prior to the ghost story tonight. Okay, this comes from my friend Michelle about Dragoon, Arizona. Now, I have since looked some stuff up on that place, and apparently some of the locals there even mentioned trains, whistling and stuff, and there's no train anywhere near the place. So anyway, so apparently it does have some kind of activity. This had nothing to do with train. She did say that this had nothing to do with other stuff from there. Her and a friend of hers was camping, and she said we were camping in an area a little farther away from where this other stuff happens. And so they were camping in that area. And, Arizona is a very dry place to start with. And, it's fairly dry out that area. So she and her friend, this is 2 females, by the way, but I wouldn't mess with them over here. They're pretty badass, by the way. Yeah. Anyway, they were there, and they were just, literally just camping there, and then they told me later that they were just sitting around, and of course they were aware of part of the stuff I just mentioned that I had to go look up because she told me. She said, well, look it up. There's some stuff that does happen in this area. But not in the very exact area they were. I guess there's opposite areas, west, whatever, of that section of Arizona, which I don't even know if I guess I'll have to look to see if I've actually even drove through there myself in that area. I'm not really sure that I have. I've been to Arizona several times, but I don't know that I've driven in that area. I'll have to look it up on a map. That part I didn't do. So anyway, so she tells me the story, and she said, Magnum, I know that you like this stuff, so she said, I'm going to tell you what happened. And she said, if you want to use it on the podcast that you have, she said, you're welcome to use it. And I said, okay. So anyway, I'm going to try to relate the story the best I can. I took some notes when she was talking to me. Hopefully I can get it correct, man. she is the type that would probably tell me I got something wrong if I did it wrong. But I think I got pretty good notes. So anyway, so this was. She said this was shortly after the sun went down, and it was a little cooler. Of course, Arizona, man, you can be in the desert and it can freeze you at night, out there if you're not careful. But I mean, she lived out there for a little while, and her and her other friend was out there together, and they were camping and in that area. And she told me, she said, you always hear things at night. She told me, she said, you're aware of that. And I said, yeah, I know that. I hear stuff all the time where I live at, but it's not always necessarily paranormal or anything like that. And, it's usually animals, coyotes, or deer. Deer recently, came all the way up to my cabin and was rubbing on my cabin of all things. But anyway, that out of the way. So they're just sitting there and drinking some coffee of all things. Which I thought was funny, drinking coffee in Arizona. But then again, it does get cold at night. So she says, we're sitting there, and we hear the awfulest blood screaming stuff and we thought someone was in trouble. That's what we thought. That's what she said we thought. And we're like, whoa, that sounds horrible, right? So they think it's really, really nearby. And he said, well, maybe we ought to check this out. By the way, these people are of a profession that they would not get in any trouble checking this out. In fact, I'm not allowed to tell you what they do. I'm only allowed to tell you that they are in a profession that would be very response-oriented. I guess that's the best I can tell without telling what they do. So anyway, they're just like, man, we need to check that out. That's just, it just sounds horrible. And of course, the other one, she said, well, I don't know, it might be, I said it might just be an animal. She said, this sounds really, really bad. Okay, so they keep getting closer and closer and closer to this as they took on a little hike. They decided to take a little hike to check this out. And she told me, she said, Magnum, you're not going to believe this. So we get in this area, which is probably maybe less than a half a mile from where we're camping. And you just hear this and hear this and hear it. And there's nothing but just this open space. There's nothing there. And it's just going off. And she said to me, she said, this is one of those times where, as tough as I am, she said, I actually got a little scared. And she said, I'm like, what is going on? This is crazy. And she said, of course, now I'd heard some of these other stories about this area, but this was a totally opposite of anything I had ever heard about for this area. And she said it was one of the reasons I decided I would share it with you, because I know I've never heard of this. Maybe someone else has had this happen. So maybe someone who listens to the podcast can tell us whether or not this has ever happened in that area. I looked up a lot of stuff, couldn't find anything about this particular type of story. So, yeah, I was very intrigued and very glad that she told it to me. So, anyway, so Michelle's telling me the story, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, what? She said, it's open. There's nothing. And you just hear it, and it's echoing, and it's like, well, maybe it's coming from somewhere else. And so as we got a little closer and a little closer, it kept getting louder and louder. And it's just like it's just in the air. And she's like, she goes, this is crazy. So she turns to her other friend. She said, what is going on? She said, this is nuts. And I said to myself when she was telling me the story, I said, are you sure it wasn't an echo from somewhere else? I said, you're highly trained and I know that. I said, are you sure? And she said, I am absolutely positive. It was coming directly. So she gets closer and her friend gets closer. They literally are on top of this. There's nothing there. And the screaming is just intensifying. And she said it was literally like we were right in front of it. And there was nothing. She said, we see nothing. And it's just like the screams are just coming out of the air. She said, I've never experienced anything like that. And she said it was just like, wow. And her friend's like, we need to say something about this. She's like, no, we don't need to say anything about this. Of course, later she would, and this has happened. I think she said this happened a couple of years back. So this has been a while since this happened. But so she told me, she said, and then all of a sudden, She said it literally was just like it was screaming in our face, and there's nothing there. And then it stopped. It just stopped out of the blue. She said, she turns to her friend, she was like, "That's creepy. That's very creepy." It was her words exactly, the words that she said she used. She said, "Let's just start walking back to the camp." So they start hiking back to the camp, and these screams have stopped. There's nothing out there. Nothing's being happened. And she relays this to me she says, "I don't even know if I want to even admit that this happened right now. It may take me some time to admit whatever just happened, because I don't know what happened." And her friend's like, "I don't either." So they go back to the camp, and they decide, they're just gonna go sleep. They're going to ignore it, and didn't think anything else of it. Now, this is exactly what she said happened, because I've taken the notes here. So she said it is probably somewhere between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. And as a lot of people know, can be a very active time on a lot of stuff, especially paranormal stuff like that. That has been known and documented to be a very powerful time of the night or morning as well. So they start hearing stuff outside, like someone's walking around. And she's like, "Okay, this isn't good." So now these are people who are legally able to carry firearms. So that kind of gives you kind of a hint about part of what they do without me telling them what you do, because I kind of don't want to say exactly what they do. So anyway, but they are legally allowed to carry them. Pretty much anywhere, by the way. Anyway, long story. So she's just like, "Is there somebody out there?" And she's like, "It sounds like someone's walking around the camp outside." And she's like, "Okay, so this whole night's been strange already." So she says, "Okay, I'm gonna go out there." And her friend said, "Well, I'm not letting you go out there alone. I'm gonna go out there with you." They both go outside, and there's literally no one to be seen. Nowhere. No one's around. They see no one. And suddenly, it all stopped. When they came out to try to confront whatever they thought was out there, or a person or whatever, there's nobody out there. There's no movement. It's all stopped again, just like the screaming had stopped earlier in the night. So anyway, they said they went back and tried to sleep and everything. Finally got to sleep, and then of course they said the sun came up. When the sun started coming up, they was like, "Oh, we gotta get." But they said, for all the things that we've done and all the training we've taken, that was just throwing us for a loop. And so they got up, got ready and everything. Here's the most interesting thing of all. I found this highly fascinating, the part that she's about to tell me next. So they've got this camper. They're there. I should have mentioned that to start with. But they had some stuff that was hanging on the camper. And anyway, they go outside. Don't pay any attention at first. And a bunch of stuff that was hanging is just all laid out everywhere, and they're just like, "Okay, somebody's just messing." Had to be. But then later they said, "But we never heard anybody touch the camper. We never heard anybody. We only heard someone we thought was out there." And then there was nothing, just like the screaming. And anyway, so this is the story she related to me. So it's a quick story tonight, and that's all I have on that story. If you know anything from that area, and you're from that area, or if you've ever heard of anything similar to that, please feel free to let me know. This was basically a quick episode tonight to get everything back going for the This is the third season, episode 1, and I do appreciate it. It was a short story. I wish there was more to the story. I'm sorry there's not. That's the best I've got from her. But that's what she relayed to me, and I think it's a cool story. Whether or not there's an explanation or not, that's for someone to either tell me something they've had something similar happen in that area, or that maybe someone was out there and maybe there was something more to that. But anyway, like I said, when I tried to look this up to see if nothing was out there about that. So, but there was a lot of other stuff and a lot of other activity. So it did kind of fascinate me that she told me the story, and that maybe this was something that happened to somebody else, and maybe they just were afraid to tell it. Because as you may remember, my West Coast co-host Danielle Long told some, and she was like, she even mentioned, back at one point there was a lot of people that were afraid to talk about any of this kind of stuff, and there's always somewhat of an explanation, one way or the other. Whether or not it's true paranormal activity, don't know. Whether somebody was missing, or whether something else was going on, but there was no evidence of that other than the next morning of something that must have moved their stuff around, and literally one of these was a bag, and said the bag was just completely unpacked, hanging out there. Nothing that would attract anything animal wise or anything that was in it, so it was just hanging there. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. I could understand if you were in an area with bears or something like that and you left, because I have had that experience in my life. That happened to me in the Santa de Cristo Range back in 1985. Literally, you had to put your packs up in the trees and stuff, because you got bears in that area. The Wranglers had made sure, and on this particular story, I remember what Teddy's like. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning, and there's a bear literally going around the tents outside. I think they were trying to get to the packs and he said, I think I forgot my I said, I hope you don't home in on that toothpaste, because he forgot to put his toothpaste in the pack. But it never did, so I think we got lucky on that one. Maybe it was sealed, and maybe he just couldn't smell it. I don't know. But anyway, it never did. I think there was too much smell coming from the trees, from the packs that were in the trees, and he was trying to get to the tree. But the bear, literally, it was a moonlight night, and I still remember this to this day, because I rode horseback on the Santa de Cristo Range in 1985 with Philmont Scout Ranch, and literally I still remember it being a moonlit night, and I still remember that bear being out there going, and if that bear comes through, that we're in trouble. We are in some serious trouble. But anyway, so I actually have some pretty fun stories from my childhood growing up with the Scouts and stuff, and being an Eagle Scout, but we'll pass that on to other stuff later on. But anyway, so back to her story. Her story was cool, and just added it in there, and hopefully we'll have some more cool stuff coming up soon, and I'm working on trying to get some guest shows up, trying to do some things with different guests, whether they're paranormal, aviators, or stuff that I originally tried to do. Also maybe some local guests from the Bowling Green, Kentucky area where the podcast is broadcast out of, or produced out of, I guess I should say, since we don't really broadcast live. But anyway, so that's what I'm working on. I'm working on some of that stuff. And again, thank you for being here on the 13th Destiny podcast. Please check out Jay Farrell's stuff. Please check out the Front Porch over in Marion, Kentucky. Please check out Captain D's down in White House, Tennessee. And please check out Rachel Roberts' recipes and her coffee talk and some other stuff. And her podcast, she's got quite a few things. I'll see what all I can link. I need to link Jay's stuff, certainly, because we are on his documentary wedding photography course on the audio part, talking with each other, and he does mention the 13th Destiny podcast. So big thanks to Jay Farrell, and big thanks to all the fans out there for being here. It's great to be back. Hope to get some more episodes on soon. And God bless all of you, and thank you for joining us here at the 13th Destiny podcast with Magnum. And everyone have a great night. Thank you.